The 26-year-old royal queen insulted the human so he turned and walked away without a word. Deathward, Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the landing platform. The twin sons of Zarathas casting long, jagged shadows across the metallic surface. The air was thin and dry, carrying a faint metallic tang that made him flinch at first, though he had grown used to alien atmospheres during his travels. This planet was known in the outer sectors as a death world, a place where only the strongest and cleverest survived. Yet, despite the warnings from his colleagues, Marcus felt an unshakable determination. Humanity depended on him. The trade agreement he was here to negotiate could not fail. The shuttle's engines cooled behind him, leaving only a low hum as the platform vibrated beneath his boots. He adjusted the strap of his satchel, feeling the weight of humanity's expectations on his shoulders. This was no ordinary mission. Zarathas was ruled by Queen Eloria, a young monarch famed for her sharp mind and even sharper tongue. She was 26, brilliant, and feared by her people. To insult a human on her world was almost unheard of, yet Marcus had prepared himself for every challenge, every insult, every attempt to undermine him. As he stepped down from the shuttle, he caught his first glimpse of the city. Towers of crystal and metal soared into the sky, twisting into shapes that seemed impossible, yet utterly natural. Platforms floated between them, held aloft by forces Marcus didn't understand, while creatures with multi-jointed limbs glided along walkways with precision. In the distance, jagged mountains cut into the horizon, their peaks shrouded in swirling storms that moved like living beings. This was a world built for survival, for the clever and ruthless. A small group of Zarathian guards approached, their movements precise and disciplined. Their skin shimmered with faint patterns that seemed alive, and their eyes glowed with a soft, pale light. They spoke in rapid Zarathian, a series of clicks and tones that Marcus only partially understood. Fortunately, one of them, a female officer, spoke Galactic Basic. "Ambassador Marcus Hale, the Queen awaits your arrival," she said, her tone neutral but firm. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. He followed the guards through twisting corridors of metal and crystal, noting the subtle security measures embedded in every wall, floor, and ceiling. Sensors glimmered faintly as he passed, scanning for threats, for lies, for weaknesses. This palace was more than a residence. It was a fortress, a statement of power and control. Finally, they reached a massive chamber, its walls adorned with intricate carvings that depicted the history of the Zarathian people. Towering statues of past rulers lined the sides, their faces fierce and commanding. And there, at the far end, stood Queen Eloria herself. She was striking. Her silver hair fell like a river of light over her shoulders, and her eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned him from across the room. She wore a robe of deep violet that seemed to shimmer with movement, as though it had a life of its own. Marcus stopped a few steps short, bowing slightly out of respect, though not overly so. He met her gaze calmly, not with fear but with quiet confidence. Queen Eloria tilted her head slightly, a faint smirk appearing on her lips. "Human," she said, her voice smooth but edged with disdain. "You travel far to bring words from your primitive species. Tell me, do you think we need anything from humans? You are weak, slow, and your reliance on machines makes you amusing." Marcus said nothing. He stood silently, letting the insult hang in the air. The queen's smirk faltered slightly. Silence was not weakness, it was a choice. By refusing to reply, Marcus demonstrated a strength she had not anticipated. "You will answer me, human," she snapped, her voice rising. The chamber vibrated slightly with the authority she exuded. "Do you come to grovel, to beg, or to admit your inferiority?" Marcus still said nothing. He simply straightened his posture, his calm demeanor a silent statement that he would not be shaken. The queen's eyes narrowed. She was used to obedience, to fear, to immediate reactions. This human was different. "Very well," she said finally, her tone icy. "Walk with me then. Let us see if your silence hides courage or cowardice." The guards led Marcus through the palace, past shimmering corridors and gardens that seemed impossible for a planet so harsh. Plants glowed faintly under the twin suns, and small creatures flitted through the air, their wings reflecting light like tiny jewels. Marcus noted everything: the way the palace harnessed natural energy, the efficiency of the guards, the subtle ways the queen's influence was evident in every detail. They arrived at a large viewing balcony that overlooked the city. The wind whipped across it, carrying fine dust and the faint hum of machinery from below. Queen Eloria stood at the edge, looking out over her domain. "This is Zarathas," she said, "a world where only the clever survive, where weakness is punished and mercy is a luxury few can afford." Marcus followed her gaze, taking in the vast expanse of city, desert, and storm. He could see why humans had been dismissed as weak. This was a world designed for the strong and ruthless, yet he did not flinch. He had survived worse. He had led humanity through conflicts, harsh environments, and political intrigue. Silence, he knew, could be more powerful than words. The queen turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You may think your species is clever, human, that your ability to adapt makes you strong, but this world does not forgive mistakes. One misstep and even the cleverest will perish." Marcus did not reply. Instead, he observed her. He saw the faint tension in her stance, the way her eyes flickered when she thought he might speak. His silence was deliberate. Every human diplomat before him had argued, pleaded, or displayed fear. He would not. After a long moment, Queen Eloria spoke again, her voice softer, almost curious. "Why do you not defend yourself? Is it fear or arrogance?" Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm, measured, carrying no anger or defiance, only clarity. "I am here to understand, not to argue. Words can insult, but actions prove more. Let my actions speak, not my voice." The queen's eyes widened slightly. Few had ever spoken to her with such composure. She studied him carefully, trying to detect any sign of weakness, any trace of deceit. Marcus met her gaze steadily. There was none. "Humans," she muttered, almost to herself. "You are unusual." For the rest of the day, Marcus was escorted through the palace. He observed the workings of the court, the subtle interplay of power among nobles, and the technological marvels of Zarathas. He noticed that while the queen's words were sharp, her rule was measured. The strength of Zarathas lay not just in its soldiers or weapons, but in its careful orchestration of politics and survival. By evening, Marcus found himself in a quiet chamber overlooking the desert. The twin suns were setting, casting the sands below in shades of gold and crimson. He allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. This world was unforgiving, its people proud and capable, yet he felt no fear. Humanity had always been underestimated, yet time and again had proven its worth through resilience and ingenuity. He knew the challenge ahead would not be simple. Negotiating with Queen Eloria would require patience, intelligence, and careful observation. Her insults were more than words, they were tests, and Marcus had already decided how he would meet them, with calm, dignity, and unwavering focus. That night, as the palace lights shimmered like distant stars across the darkening city, Marcus prepared for the days ahead. He reviewed his notes, studied Zarathian customs, and formulated plans not just to survive, but to demonstrate the value and strength of humanity. Above him, Queen Eloria watched from her private balcony, unaware that the human she had insulted would soon challenge her assumptions in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Her court expected obedience, her guards expected submission, but Marcus Hale had shown none of that. Silence, it seemed, could speak louder than the sharpest words. As the twin moons of Zarathas rose, casting silver light across the palace, Marcus felt a quiet determination settle over him. He was a human on a death world, in the heart of an alien empire, and every step he took would matter. The queen had insulted him, perhaps to provoke fear or reaction, but he had given her nothing. And that would be the first of many lessons this world would learn about humanity. In the days to come, Marcus would walk the corridors of power, navigate treacherous politics, and face challenges designed to break even the strongest. But for now, he allowed himself one thought. Humanity had survived countless worlds, countless enemies, and countless tests. This death world, with its brilliant yet arrogant queen, would not be the first to see it fail. He closed his eyes briefly, listening to the hum of the palace, the distant winds over the desert, and the quiet presence of the queen watching him. Tomorrow, the real challenge would begin. But tonight, he had already won something no one could take away, the respect born from restraint, observation, and courage. Marcus Hale was a human, standing silent in the face of insult, on a world designed to destroy the unprepared. And he was ready. The morning light of Zarathis spilled into the palace chambers, casting long, shimmering reflections on the crystalline walls. Marcus Hale rose from his bed, stretching and letting his mind focus on the day ahead. The palace was quiet in the early hours, save for the faint hum of machinery and the soft footsteps of Zarathian servants preparing for the day. He dressed simply, choosing clothing that allowed ease of movement but still showed respect for the alien customs he had observed. His mind replayed the events of the previous day. Queen Eloria's sharp words had tested him, but he had remained calm. His silence had surprised her and unsettled her court. Marcus knew that in Zarathian culture, honor and perception were everything. To ignore an insult was unusual, almost unheard of. He had made a careful choice, demonstrating quiet strength, and it had begun to shift how the queen and her advisors perceived him. Breakfast was a formal affair in the palace dining hall. The table was long, made from polished crystal, and hovered slightly above the ground. The meal itself was unfamiliar, nutrient-rich paste, glowing fruits, and small protein spheres that shifted color based on their ripeness. Marcus tasted them carefully, noting the subtle flavors, but he kept his focus on observation. Every gesture of the queen and her court, every subtle glance and movement, spoke volumes. Queen Eloria arrived late, her silver hair glinting in the morning light. Her violet robes shimmered as she moved with grace and authority. She spoke little during the meal, observing Marcus with the same intensity she had displayed the previous day. The advisors whispered among themselves, casting subtle glances at the human ambassador. Marcus noticed their unease. The queen's insults had failed to provoke him, and that made him unpredictable, which was dangerous in the eyes of Zarathians. After breakfast, Marcus was led through the palace for his first official tour of the facilities. He observed the advanced energy systems, the way water was collected and purified in a harsh desert environment, and the automated security systems designed to respond to threats within seconds. Yet he also noticed vulnerabilities. Certain energy conduits were exposed, some patrols moved predictably, and there were subtle signs of tension among the palace staff. Marcus filed these observations carefully in his mind. Knowledge was power, and he intended to use it wisely. During the tour, Queen Eloria spoke occasionally, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the palace. "You must understand, human," she said. "Our survival depends not just on strength, but on precision. Every action, every decision carries consequence. You may think humans are clever, but cleverness alone will not save you here." Marcus responded with a nod, neither defensive nor disrespectful. His calm presence continued to unsettle the queen. He did not argue, did not attempt to impress. He simply observed, learned, and adapted. Later in the day, he was introduced to the court engineers, a group of brilliant minds responsible for maintaining the palace and its surrounding infrastructure. Marcus asked questions, demonstrating genuine curiosity and insight. Where the Zarathians used complex tools and technology, Marcus often suggested simple solutions or alternative approaches that achieved the same results efficiently. The engineers, initially skeptical of the human, began to take note. Even the Queen's advisors whispered among themselves, wondering if his ideas might be more practical than they appeared. The Queen watched silently, her expression unreadable. She was beginning to realize that intelligence and strength were not always visible through display or arrogance. Marcus did not need to boast. His actions spoke for him. By afternoon, the palace scheduled a demonstration of the human's adaptability. Queen Eloria had prepared a controlled test. A section of the palace's environmental system had been deliberately disrupted, simulating a dangerous failure. Pipes leaked glowing liquid, machines sparked, and the air quality dropped to levels that could harm humans if exposure was prolonged. The court expected Marcus to panic or fail. Instead, he moved with careful precision. Observing the system, he deduced its function and traced the source of the problem. Using only the tools available nearby, he repaired the malfunction in a methodical way, stabilizing the system before it caused any real harm. The engineers who had doubted him watched in astonishment. Even the Queen could not hide a flicker of respect in her eyes. "You are efficient," she admitted quietly, her voice low. "Perhaps your species has qualities I have underestimated." Marcus remained calm. "Efficiency is necessary for survival," he said simply. "Caution and observation often prevent mistakes more effectively than force." The Queen's advisors whispered among themselves. Marcus's ability to remain composed, analyze, and act decisively without arrogance or aggression was unlike anything they had seen from a human before. It became clear that he had learned the subtle art of demonstrating strength without confrontation, a trait Zarathians respected, though few humans ever displayed it. As evening approached, Marcus was escorted to the palace gardens, an enormous enclosed space that thrived despite the harsh desert conditions outside. Bioluminescent plants glowed faintly, and small creatures darted through the foliage, their movements precise and calculated. Water flowed in carefully channeled streams, creating an oasis of calm in the midst of the palace's mechanical efficiency. Queen Eloria joined him again, walking along the paths with silent grace. "You move differently from other humans," she observed. Other ambassadors would have argued, boasted, or attempted to display superiority. "You simply act." "Why?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "In situations where survival is uncertain, words can harm or mislead. Actions reveal truth. Humans have learned to act decisively in dangerous situations because hesitation can be fatal. This world demonstrates that clearly." The Queen studied him, her expression a mixture of curiosity and frustration. "You are stubborn," she said finally. "And yet I am beginning to see the value in that stubbornness. You do not bend, do not yield, and yet you do not provoke. It is unusual." The sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the palace gardens. Marcus walked with the Queen, observing the delicate balance of technology and nature. He noticed subtle flaws, potential hazards, and the ways her engineers compensated for natural risks. He filed these insights carefully, not as criticism, but as understanding of a civilization that had thrived in an environment designed to destroy the weak. Later, he was led to a private chamber for the night. The room overlooked the desert, and the twin moons began their slow ascent. Marcus reflected on the day's events. Queen Eloria's insults had not affected him. Her challenges had been met with calm observation and intelligent action. Already he sensed a shift in the palace's perception of humanity. He understood that the real test was not the words of the Queen or the subtle politics of her court. It was survival, adaptability, and intelligence. Zarathis was a death world, designed to expose weakness and exploit it. Marcus had survived its challenges today, not through brute force or diplomacy alone, but by demonstrating human ingenuity and restraint. That night, he reviewed his observations again. The palace was impressive but not invincible. The queen ruled with authority, yet even she had vulnerabilities, both political and practical. He did not see this as an opportunity to exploit, but as knowledge to guide negotiations and foster understanding. Meanwhile, Queen Eloria sat in her private chambers, thinking over the events of the day. The human silence had been deliberate, and his actions had proven capable and insightful. She could not deny that he possessed a type of strength that Zarathians respected but few humans demonstrated. It unsettled her, challenged her assumptions, and forced her to reconsider the limits she had placed on other species. The palace was quiet as both human and queen reflected on the day. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, harsh and unforgiving, a constant reminder of the challenges that Zarathis demanded from all who lived there. Inside, the seeds of respect and curiosity had been planted. Marcus had proven that humans could survive, adapt, and demonstrate intelligence without aggression. And Queen Eloria, for all her power and pride, had begun to see that this human might teach her as much as she could teach him. The night passed with quiet anticipation. Marcus slept lightly, prepared to rise with the suns and face whatever tests, challenges, or insults awaited him. His resolve was firm. He would not allow insult, arrogance, or fear to dictate his actions. Instead, he would continue to demonstrate the unique strength of humanity, courage, intelligence, and the ability to act with both purpose and restraint. When the first light of dawn spilled across the palace, Marcus was already awake, reviewing the palace maps and preparing for the next steps. Today, he would meet the court officials, observe the queen's political maneuvering, and further demonstrate that humans were not to be underestimated. Every word spoken by Zarathians, every glance and gesture, would be recorded in his mind. Every opportunity for understanding would be seized. As he walked through the halls, the palace staff and guards regarded him with increasing respect. Marcus's calm, composed demeanor contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of those who had underestimated him. Even those who had been skeptical of his abilities now paused, noting the quiet confidence that marked every movement he made. Queen Eloria watched him from a balcony above, her expression still carefully neutral, but with a hint of curiosity. The insult she had delivered the day before had not provoked him as she expected. Instead, it had revealed a strength she had not anticipated. For the first time, she considered that humans might possess qualities beyond what Zarathians had imagined. Marcus walked on, unaware of her gaze, focused entirely on the day ahead. Challenges awaited, yes, but so did opportunities. He would continue to act, observe, and learn, proving with every step that human ingenuity and courage could thrive even on a death world. And through it all, his silence remained his greatest weapon, a quiet strength that spoke louder than any words could. The morning sun rose slowly over Zarathis, casting long, jagged shadows across the jagged cityscape. Marcus Hale stood in the central courtyard, surrounded by Zarathian nobles, engineers, and a small contingent of the palace guards. The air was tense, electric with expectation. Today, the queen had arranged a trial, one designed not to showcase diplomacy, but to test survival, adaptability, and human ingenuity. Marcus studied the arena before him. It was not a typical arena with spectators or cheering crowds. This was a Deathworld arena, an environment specifically designed to challenge the strongest beings in existence. Jagged rock formations jutted upward unpredictably. Shallow pools of acidic liquid reflected the twin suns, and massive mechanical gates lined the edges, suggesting traps and automated hazards. Native Zarathian predators, bred and trained for this purpose, moved silently, unseen, ready to strike at any moment. Queen Eloria stood above on a viewing platform, her violet robes flowing in the wind. Her silver hair glinted under the sun, and her sharp eyes studied Marcus with a mixture of curiosity and lingering skepticism. She had arranged this challenge expecting either failure or humiliation. Humans were clever, yes, but untested in the extreme conditions of Zarathas. She wanted to see if his species could survive where most would perish. Marcus did not hesitate. He studied the arena carefully, taking note of the subtle signs of danger. Slight discolorations in the rock indicating weak footing, faint heat waves suggesting predators lurking in the shadows, and mechanical sensors hidden in the terrain. His human training emphasized observation first, action second. Hesitation could be fatal here, but reckless haste could be even worse. At the signal from the Queen, the gates opened. Marcus stepped forward cautiously, feeling the heat of the desert air and the uneven terrain beneath his boots. Immediately, he noted the first hazard, a narrow ledge that spanned a pool of acidic liquid. One misstep would result in immediate injury or worse. Humans were not naturally agile like Zarathians, but Marcus used his knowledge of balance, combined with careful measurement of each step to cross safely. As he advanced, mechanical traps activated. Spears shot from hidden panels, forcing Marcus to duck, roll, and improvise. He observed each trap, noting the patterns and using timing to his advantage. He realized that brute force would not succeed. Intelligence and adaptability were his greatest weapons. Then a creature appeared from the shadows, a massive quadruped with crystalline spikes along its back and claws sharp enough to tear through armor. Its eyes glowed faintly, tracking his every movement. The Zarathians watching expected him to panic or flee, yet Marcus remained calm. He studied the creature, noting its weaknesses. The spikes were heavy and reduced its agility, and its eyes, while sensitive, could be temporarily blinded by reflections. Using a piece of discarded crystal from the arena, he reflected sunlight into the creature's eyes, causing it to recoil. With careful, calculated movements, he bypassed it without confrontation, preserving both his energy and safety. The nobles whispered among themselves. They had expected the human to fail quickly, yet he moved with precision, efficiency, and intelligence. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. She had underestimated him. Marcus's calm approach was beginning to unsettle her as much as it had on the first day. Further into the arena, he encountered more challenges: deep crevasses, pools of toxic liquid, and areas with shifting terrain designed to collapse under weight. Marcus adapted to each with a combination of observation, improvisation, and human ingenuity. He used simple tools at his disposal: a length of cable to create a makeshift bridge, a piece of reflective metal to detect hidden hazards, and debris to divert small predators away from his path. Each solution was efficient, precise, and unassuming. Time passed, yet Marcus showed no signs of fatigue. His ability to read the environment, predict hazards, and act decisively impressed even the most skeptical of Zarathians. The Queen observed from above, silently acknowledging the skill and calm he displayed. She had arranged this trial expecting to showcase human inadequacy, yet it was quickly becoming a demonstration of their resilience and cleverness. As he reached the central section of the arena, a massive mechanical gate closed behind him, isolating him further. The Queen's voice echoed through the courtyard. "This section will test both intellect and courage, human. One mistake and the consequences will be final." Marcus took a deep breath, scanning the area. Here, the hazards were more subtle. Pressure-sensitive tiles littered the floor, triggering lethal spikes when stepped upon. A faint, rhythmic vibration indicated that some traps were timed, while others reacted to sound or motion. Marcus moved slowly, deliberately, calculating each step to avoid activating the mechanisms. A predator lunged from the shadows, a flying creature with talons capable of slicing through flesh. Marcus remained calm, throwing a small reflective shard into its path. The creature swerved, missing him by inches, and Marcus took the opportunity to move forward. He realized that raw strength or speed alone could not ensure survival. Creativity, calmness, and precision were essential. Halfway through, he encountered a puzzle of sorts, a series of levers and switches controlling a bridge over a deep chasm. The wrong combination would collapse the bridge and send him plummeting. Marcus examined the structure, noting where patterns and subtle indicators of the correct sequence. With patience, he manipulated the levers, testing each carefully. The bridge extended safely, and he crossed without incident. The observing crowd gasped quietly, impressed by his careful thought under pressure. Queen Eloria's expression shifted slightly. Marcus was not just surviving, he was thriving. Every step, every decision demonstrated the strength she had never associated with humans: patience, intelligence, adaptability, and courage. He was proving that survival required more than brute force. It required understanding, strategy, and composure under pressure. The final section of the arena was the most dangerous. A narrow canyon with walls slick from alien residue, populated with both mechanical traps and natural predators. The air was thick, warm, and carried a faint odor of chemicals that could disorient humans. Marcus paused, taking in the environment. He noted each hazard, planned a route, and moved deliberately. A massive predator, larger than any he had encountered, emerged from the shadows. It had crystalline armor, razor-sharp claws, and eyes that glowed with predatory intent. Marcus's mind raced, considering options. He could not confront it directly. Instead, he used his surroundings to his advantage. He lured the creature toward a mechanical trap, timing it so that the creature triggered it, knocking it off balance. Marcus moved swiftly past, keeping his distance, yet never hesitating. As he neared the exit, the final challenge awaited: a large panel of unstable rock suspended over a pit filled with corrosive liquid. One misstep could be fatal. Marcus studied the structure, calculating weight distribution and the safest path. Step by step he crossed, his movements precise, each footfall deliberate. The pit gaped below him, but he remained calm, focused entirely on observation and execution. Finally, he reached the end. The gates closed behind him with a heavy clang, signaling the completion of the trial. The crowd erupted in whispers and murmurs of astonishment. The queen remained silent for a moment, studying him with an expression that was a mixture of surprise, admiration, and reluctant respect. "Human," she said finally, her voice steady, carrying above the murmurs. "You have survived a Deathworld arena without assistance, without fear, and without display of arrogance. You have proven remarkable qualities." Marcus bowed slightly, acknowledging the praise without vanity. The challenges were designed for survival. Observation, adaptability, and patience are often stronger than brute force. The queen nodded slowly. Her advisors whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. This human had faced what they considered insurmountable, relying only on intelligence, calm, and creativity. It was unprecedented. Most humans would have perished, she admitted, her tone thoughtful. Yet you endure. Perhaps my assumptions about your species require reconsideration. Marcus allowed himself a brief smile, not out of pride, but recognition that his methods were understood. His humanity had been tested, and in the process, he had shown a strength far beyond simple physical capability. He had relied on creativity, observation, patience, and courage, the traits that defined human resilience in any environment, no matter how alien or hostile. The queen dismissed the trial, her mind clearly processing what she had witnessed. Marcus was escorted back through the palace, not with the usual nervous curiosity that greeted humans, but with cautious respect. The engineers and guards he had impressed earlier now nodded with genuine acknowledgement, some even offering subtle praise for his ingenuity. As night fell over Zarathas, Marcus reflected on the day's events. The arena had been a test not of diplomacy or words, but of survival and intelligence. He had faced every challenge with calm, careful observation and practical solutions. His human ingenuity had allowed him to thrive in an environment that sought to destroy him. Queen Eloria, alone in her chambers, considered the human ambassador carefully. She had expected failure, perhaps humiliation, and yet she had witnessed skill, courage, and intelligence in action. Marcus had done more than survive. He had demonstrated qualities that the Zarathians respected above all else. The night passed with both human and queen contemplating the events of the day. Marcus prepared for the challenges ahead, knowing that survival alone was only part of the journey. He would need to navigate palace politics, foster understanding, and continue to demonstrate the value of humanity's unique strengths. And as the twin moons rose over Zarathis, casting silver light across the desert and the palace, a quiet truth became clear. Humanity, with its intelligence, creativity, and courage, could not only survive on a death world, it could thrive. The morning sun rose over the Zarathian palace once more, bathing its crystalline towers in light that reflected off the desert sands below. Marcus Hale awoke with purpose. Yesterday's Deathworld arena trial had not only tested his physical and mental abilities, but had also left a mark on Queen Eloria and her court. He knew that survival alone would not win the respect or trust necessary to accomplish his mission. Today, he needed to observe, interact, and subtly influence the palace dynamics while remaining calm and composed. Breakfast was a quiet affair. The palace staff had prepared a selection of luminescent fruits, nutrient-rich pastes, and small protein spheres that glimmered faintly. Marcus ate slowly, paying attention to the subtle details of the meal and the palace staff serving it. The queen did not join him immediately, allowing him to observe the interactions of the court. Conversations were held in hushed tones, gestures and glances carrying meaning as much as words. Marcus noticed subtle tensions among the nobles, rivalries that could affect the stability of her reign. When Queen Eloria arrived, she walked with her usual poise, her silver hair catching the light. Marcus stood, bowing slightly, and met her gaze without hesitation. She studied him for a moment before speaking. "You have survived challenges that many of my own warriors would fail. That is unexpected. Tell me, human, do you rely on courage alone, or do your species have other means of survival?" Marcus considered his answer carefully. "Courage is only part of it, Your Majesty. Observation, intelligence, and adaptability are equally important. Humans have learned to survive in extreme conditions by thinking, improvising, and learning from mistakes. We act with purpose and reason, not just with strength." The queen's eyes flickered with interest. She had expected bravado, arrogance, or fear, but Marcus spoke with calm authority, neither defensive nor boastful. Her advisors whispered among themselves, clearly impressed by the clarity and precision of his words. Marcus had again demonstrated a strength that did not rely on aggression or intimidation. After breakfast, Marcus was guided through the administrative chambers of the palace. Here, he observed how the queen managed her empire. Communication systems that spanned the planet, a network of sensors monitoring natural hazards, and a council of officials responsible for maintaining order. Marcus noted both strengths and vulnerabilities, understanding that leadership was as much about intelligence and planning as it was about force. One of the advisors, a tall Zarathian named Veckrel, approached Marcus with a subtle challenge. "Human, you survived the arena, yes, but survival alone does not make one wise. Tell me, how would you manage our resources if faced with a crisis?" Marcus looked at him calmly. "First, I would assess the situation carefully, understanding the needs of both the people and the environment. Then I would prioritize actions that maximize safety and efficiency while minimizing risk. Leadership is not about dominance, it is about informed decisions and calculated actions." The advisor's eyes narrowed, clearly testing Marcus's intellect. Marcus continued, "A leader must also anticipate potential failures, adapt to unforeseen circumstances, and maintain the trust of those who depend on him. Humans survive not by brute force, but by learning, improvising, and collaborating. These principles are universal, not bound to any one world or species." Veckrel studied him silently, clearly impressed despite himself. Marcus had a way of speaking that conveyed both humility and authority, a rare combination among humans, and almost unheard of among the Zorathians. By midday, Marcus was invited to the palace gardens, a sprawling area filled with bioluminescent plants, flowing water, and carefully tended fauna. It was a place of calm, designed to provide respite from the harshness of the death world outside. Here, Queen Eloria spoke to him privately, walking along a raised pathway that overlooked a tranquil pond. "You have proven capable in the arena and in your observations of my court," she said. "Yet you still remain restrained. Most humans would seek recognition to display their accomplishments. Why do you not?" Marcus paused, considering the question. "Recognition is not necessary to demonstrate capability, Your Majesty. Actions reveal character more effectively than words. If one acts with integrity, intelligence, and courage that is seen and understood, boasting is unnecessary." The queen studied him thoughtfully. His restraint was unlike any human she had encountered. It unsettled her but also intrigued her. She had assumed that humans relied on words, charm, or cunning to assert themselves. Marcus relied on none of these. His intelligence, courage, and calm action spoke louder than any argument or insult could. As they walked through the gardens, Marcus noticed subtle signs of discontent among the palace staff. Some engineers whispered quietly, concerned about resource allocations. Some guards eyed the queen's private chambers with guarded caution. Marcus realized that while the queen was brilliant and capable, her rule faced pressures that could disrupt the palace if handled poorly. He made mental notes, understanding that these observations would help him navigate the complexities of Zorathian politics. Later, a sudden alert interrupted the quiet of the palace gardens. A section of the city's energy network had experienced a minor failure, threatening to disrupt power to a key sector. While human diplomats might have panicked or called for immediate assistance, Marcus remained calm. He asked for a map of the affected area and observed the engineers' efforts. By analyzing the system and offering a few simple suggestions, he helped stabilize the network efficiently. The engineers were initially hesitant, but they soon saw the value in his approach. Queen Eloria observed silently, clearly impressed. Marcus's human ingenuity and ability to remain composed under pressure had again proven effective, and once more, it had required no words of boast or arrogance. As evening approached, Marcus was called to a council meeting. This gathering of the Queen's most trusted advisors was designed to discuss both internal and external matters of governance. Marcus observed the dynamics carefully. Each advisor had their own agenda, subtle rivalries and alliances shaping their words and gestures. Marcus spoke only when necessary, asking insightful questions and offering perspectives that encouraged collaboration and problem-solving, without imposing his own authority. The council meeting revealed both the strengths and weaknesses of the Zorathian court. Marcus noted areas where compromise was needed, opportunities for efficiency, and ways to maintain stability in the face of political tensions. His calm, thoughtful approach continued to impress both advisors and the Queen, who watched him carefully from the head of the table. After the meeting, Marcus was allowed a brief moment of rest in the palace courtyard. The twin moons of Zorathis rose above the jagged horizon, casting silver light across the desert and reflecting off the palace towers. He reflected on the day's events. Marcus had demonstrated more than survival. He had shown understanding, intelligence, and the ability to navigate complex social and political dynamics. These qualities, he knew, were just as important as courage or physical skill. Queen Eloria approached him quietly, her expression thoughtful. "You have survived challenges, observed my court, and acted with intelligence and restraint. Yet you are still unusual. Most humans would not have succeeded in these tasks." Marcus smiled slightly, a gesture of respect rather than pride. "Perhaps that is the nature of humanity, Your Majesty. We survive not by dominating others, but by learning, adapting, and understanding. We act carefully, thoughtfully, and with purpose." The queen regarded him silently for a long moment. Marcus's calm demeanor, intelligence, and courage were unlike anything she had expected from a human. She had insulted him on their first meeting, assuming that humans were weak, slow, and easily provoked. Instead, Marcus had demonstrated qualities that challenged her assumptions and demanded reconsideration. As the night deepened, the palace grew quiet. Marcus reviewed his observations, considered the dynamics he had witnessed, and prepared for the next challenges. He knew that survival on Zarathis required more than bravery. It required insight, patience, and the ability to understand both the environment and the people within it. Queen Eloria, alone in her private chambers, reflected on Marcus's actions. The human had faced every challenge, every subtle test, without fear or arrogance. He had observed, adapted, and acted efficiently and thoughtfully. For the first time, the queen considered that her assumptions about humans might have been flawed. Perhaps strength did not always manifest in aggression or dominance. Perhaps intelligence, courage, and composure could be just as powerful. The palace lights glimmered softly, and the night air carried the faint hum of machinery and desert winds. Both Marcus and the queen understood without words that the events of the past days had begun to shift perceptions. Marcus had proven the value and strength of humanity through calm, intelligence, and action, rather than argument or aggression. And as the twin moons of Zarathis illuminated the palace towers, Marcus prepared for the coming days, knowing that his mission was far from complete. Challenges awaited, both in the palace and beyond, and his ability to act with insight, courage, and integrity would determine the outcome. In the quiet of the palace, a new understanding began to take root. Queen Eloria, once confident in her assumptions, now faced the realization that humans were not the weak, untested species she had believed. Marcus Hale had demonstrated that humanity could thrive, adapt, and even surpass expectations in an environment designed to test every weakness. The night passed with quiet anticipation. Marcus rested lightly, alert to every sound, every movement, every possibility. His human resilience, intelligence, and calm demeanor had earned him respect, but he knew that true success required continuous observation, learning, and action. Tomorrow, the palace would present new challenges, subtle tests, and opportunities for Marcus to demonstrate the strength of humanity in ways the queen had yet to understand. For now, both human and queen reflected on the events of the day, aware that the quiet power of intelligence, courage, and restraint could alter perceptions and shape alliances in ways words alone never could. The twin suns of Zarathis rose once more over the jagged cityscape, casting sharp light across the crystalline towers. Marcus Hale moved through the palace corridors with quiet purpose. In the days since his arrival, he had faced insults, navigated palace politics, survived the Deathworld arena, and demonstrated the value of human ingenuity, patience, and courage. Today, he knew, the queen had planned his final test, not of survival, but of leadership and diplomacy. The chamber for the meeting was enormous, its walls of polished crystal reflecting the early sunlight. Queen Eloria waited at the far end, her violet robes glimmering faintly, her expression carefully neutral but sharp with anticipation. The advisors and council members filled the sides of the room, their eyes flicking between Marcus and the queen. Marcus bowed slightly, meeting her gaze calmly. "Human," she said, her voice clear and commanding, You have survived my Deathworld trials, demonstrated intelligence in my court, and handled challenges that would have undone most ambassadors. Yet today you face a test not of strength, but of judgment. The Council has demanded a solution to a crisis, one that threatens Zarathas itself. Marcus nodded, listening intently. The Queen continued. A region in the southern deserts has suffered from instability in the energy network, compounded by natural hazards and rogue predatory creatures. Previous attempts to stabilize it have failed. You must propose a solution that preserves life, maintains resources, and restores stability. You may advise the Council as you see fit. Marcus stepped forward, scanning the chamber. The Council members were tense, some skeptical, some openly doubtful. Marcus's approach was methodical. He asked questions, clarified the current state of the energy network, identified vulnerable systems, and listened carefully to the advice of Zarathian engineers. Then, calmly and clearly, he outlined a step-by-step plan that used both human ingenuity and the existing Zarathian resources. First, he said, we must stabilize the critical energy nodes to prevent cascading failures. Second, we should implement temporary containment barriers in areas where predators and natural hazards overlap with human and Zarathian settlements. Third, we must coordinate patrols to monitor both the energy systems and the natural hazards until permanent fixes are in place. Finally, I recommend training local teams to respond quickly to minor failures, using simple, effective procedures rather than relying solely on complex automated systems. The Council members whispered among themselves. Some were impressed, others hesitant, but the Queen remained silent, observing Marcus's delivery. His plan was clear, practical, and achievable. It accounted for both the environment and the people living in it, combining intelligence with adaptability. One advisor, Veckrel, stepped forward, challenging him. Human, your plan relies on simplicity. Zarathians prefer intricate solutions, systems of precision and control. How can you be certain that your methods will succeed where our technology has failed? Marcus met his gaze steadily. Complex systems are only as strong as the understanding of those who use them. Simplicity reduces the chance of failure, increases response speed, and allows humans and Zarathians to act efficiently together. Intelligence is effective only when applied wisely. I have studied the hazards, the environment, and your resources. This plan uses that knowledge for maximum efficiency and minimum risk. Veckrel paused, clearly impressed despite himself. Marcus had spoken with calm authority, and the logic of his proposal was undeniable. Even the most skeptical members of the Council could not argue with the practicality of the approach. Queen Eloria finally spoke. Your plan is sound, human. It demonstrates insight, adaptability, and understanding, qualities that many of my own species value highly. You have not only survived here but have shown leadership in a way that merits recognition. Marcus nodded respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. My intention is not to seek recognition, but to offer solutions that protect life and maintain stability. Humans understand the value of action guided by intelligence and observation. The Council members deliberated briefly, then unanimously approved the plan. Orders were sent, engineers and patrols coordinated, and teams dispatched to implement Marcus's strategies. Within hours, areas previously at risk began to stabilize. Energy nodes returned to normal function, hazards were contained, and patrols reported minimal disruption. The effectiveness of Marcus's approach became evident quickly, leaving even the Queen's most skeptical advisors astonished. Queen Eloria approached him privately afterward, walking through the palace gardens. You have exceeded expectations, Marcus Hale. Your intelligence, composure, and calm judgment have saved lives and stabilized critical systems. I must admit, I underestimated humanity. You have proven your species value not through words but through action. Marcus considered her words. Your Majesty, respect is earned through understanding and deeds, not force or fear. Humans have survived in countless environments by observing, learning, and acting with purpose. Your world is challenging, but its principles are not unlike those we have faced elsewhere. Adaptation and intelligence matter most. The Queen regarded him thoughtfully, clearly wrestling with the truth of his statements. She had begun with assumptions of weakness and inferiority, but Marcus had demonstrated qualities that challenged those preconceptions: ingenuity, courage, patience, and the ability to act decisively without arrogance. Later that evening, the Queen called a private audience for Marcus in her chambers. The room was dimly lit by bioluminescent panels, giving it a calm, almost ethereal glow. She studied him carefully, her expression serious but respectful. "Marcus," she said, "you have done more than survive, more than impress my advisors. You have demonstrated qualities that many in my court have not. Courage, intelligence, and composure are rare. Most humans would have been overwhelmed, arrogant, or fearful. You have shown restraint, insight, and the ability to lead. For that, I offer not only respect but partnership." Marcus inclined his head, understanding the weight of her words. "Your Majesty, my goal has always been to demonstrate that humanity can survive and thrive, not only in challenging environments but alongside other species. Partnership requires trust, understanding, and mutual respect. I am prepared to work toward that in every way I can." Queen Eloria studied him for a long moment. "You have shown that humans are more than I anticipated. Today, the Council has seen what I have observed privately. Your actions speak louder than words, and your judgment is sound. I would like you to continue advising, not as an outsider but as a trusted partner. Your species' strength is unique, and your insight is invaluable." Marcus bowed slightly. "I accept, Your Majesty. My actions will continue to reflect the best of humanity: intelligence, courage, and the ability to act wisely and fairly." In the days that followed, Marcus worked closely with the Queen and her council. He assisted in stabilizing additional energy networks, optimizing resource management, and coordinating teams to handle environmental hazards. His human ingenuity and practical approach complemented the advanced technology of the Zorathians, resulting in solutions that were efficient, effective, and sustainable. The palace began to notice subtle changes. Advisors who had been skeptical now consulted Marcus willingly. Engineers incorporated his suggestions, combining human simplicity with Zorathian precision. Guards and palace staff observed his composure and efficiency, learning new methods of observation and problem-solving. Marcus's presence became not just accepted but respected, a testament to humanity's adaptability and value. Queen Eloria herself found her perceptions of humans shifting. Marcus had disproven every assumption she had made in the first moments of their encounter. Humans were not weak or slow. They were not arrogant braggarts or untested novices. Instead, they were capable of intelligence, courage, and leadership, even in environments designed to challenge every weakness. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the palace towers, Marcus and the Queen walked through the gardens. The air was calm, filled with the soft glow of bioluminescent plants and the faint hum of flowing water. "You have changed my perception of your species, Marcus Hale," the Queen said softly. "Not through words, but through action, judgment, and insight. You have earned the respect of my court, my advisors, and myself." Marcus nodded. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Respect is earned through deeds, not assumption. Humans have survived and thrived not because of strength alone, but because of intelligence, adaptability, and courage. I hope our partnership will reflect those principles." The Queen smiled faintly, a gesture rare and genuine. "It shall. You have proven that humans are capable of far more than I imagined. Your presence here has reminded me that strength is not always visible in the obvious ways. You have earned your place among us, not as an outsider but as a partner, advisor, and ally. The palace of Zarathas, once a place of testing and suspicion, had become a site of collaboration, understanding, and mutual respect. Marcus had demonstrated the core principles of humanity: intelligence, courage, observation, and the ability to act decisively without arrogance. He had faced every insult, challenge, and subtle test with patience and composure, earning the trust and respect of a species that initially doubted him. The twin suns set over the desert horizon, casting the palace in hues of gold and crimson. Marcus stood alongside Queen Eloria on a high balcony, overlooking the city that had tested him so thoroughly. Below, engineers, guards, and citizens moved efficiently, their work coordinated and stabilized through his insights and guidance. "You have done more than survive, Marcus Hale," the Queen said quietly. "You have proven the value of humanity. Your intelligence, courage, and judgment have left a mark on Zarathas that will endure for generations." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. "It has been an honor, Your Majesty. Humans are adaptable, resilient, and capable of great intelligence. I am glad to have had the opportunity to demonstrate that, not just through words, but through action." The Queen regarded him with a mixture of admiration and quiet respect. "From the first insult you endured to the trials of the Deathworld arena to guiding my council through the crisis, you have consistently proven that strength lies not just in force, but in intelligence, restraint, and courage. Zarathas will remember that, and so will I." As the night deepened and the twin moons illuminated the city, Marcus Hale knew that his mission had succeeded. He had faced insult, danger, and doubt, and through calm intelligence, courage, and practical action, he had earned the respect of a species that initially considered humanity weak. Zarathas would now view humans differently, not as outsiders, but as capable allies. And in that quiet moment, standing alongside Queen Eloria, Marcus realized that humanity had not only survived a death world, they had proven that their ingenuity, courage, and insight could shine even in the harshest environments, earning trust, respect, and a lasting partnership with one of the galaxy's most formidable civilizations.